no one listen to you because like no one understand what you're saying. Okay, so welcome to Not Daily Podcast.
Should we have a starting formula, a gimmick?
Yeah. This is Not Daily Podcast, a podcast.
That is not daily.
Yeah! That was not expected. So who are you?
Oh, do we present ourselves or each other? Interesting
You're gonna-
grammar point.
Okay, you're gonna present yourself first,
Okay.
and then you're gonna ask the exact same question to me because
Okay.
we don't know each other.
What? Is that the way podcasts work?
Yeah.
Really?
It's like, no.
Oh, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Who are you?
Okay.
Why are you in this room with me?
I don't know. I asked myself that question. Isn't that the topic of this episode?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are you?
So I am Johan. I studied computer science. My main domain of abilities and knowledge is being in deep denial. So I have all kind of knowledge about denial that I can bring to the table. I am very.
How would you link being a software engineer, as you say, and being in denial? Is there a link there?
I think like computer science and software engineering is nice because it makes you think about the world as models. And so it's a natural bridge towards cognitive science. And in particular, I think people who work on AI are really cool about philosophy of mind. I read a lot of their crap. And that linked to denial because denial is just like the only reasonable solution, obviously,
Solution to what?
to reality.
To reality.
If you want a summary, but maybe it's tough for the first episode.
Yeah, I think we should
like,
deep dive that
the-
into another episode. but-
The reality is bad, and your consciousness makes you feel bad, but your consciousness is an illusion. So naturally, you should try to repress it.
That makes sense
But,
to me,
yeah.
maybe not to our listeners. We're gonna deep dive that in
Like,
another.
stay tuned. Like that's teaser for what people can
That's a
expect.
teaser.
So who are you? I guess you have ties to teaser.
Who am I? So I have a background in cognitive
2461.
science. So that's something that I
Yeah.
have. I've done like 4 years in that bullshit, and then
4 years.
4 years, 3 years of like cognitive psychology, 1 year of cognitive science at large, and then I've done an engineer school as well. Yoo-hoo, software engineer
Wow.
school.
You have like a
So-
broad view of everything that happens everywhere. Okay, so that makes you qualified
It
Yeah.
makes me qualified for any podcast
for
ever.
any podcast.
That's why I'm more gonna ask questions and answer it.
Oh fuck! Because I had the exact same plan, but maybe that's like a good thing. Like all the podcasts are trying to answer questions
Yeah,
and stuff.
we're
Maybe you
just
can
gonna
just
ask
ask
some.
questions.
Let's ask some.
Like what questions can we ask? And that's already a question.
What question can we? So that's exactly the theme of our first episode, I think. What question can we ask? Will we ask? Would we ask? Could we ask?
Well,
All of the who
that
do
all
all.
depends on what is our goal.
And what is it?
What is our goal?
Our goal is.
Why are we here today?
Before all of that.
Before, yeah.
Before.
What is a podcast?
Like before all of that.
Okay.
Uh,
What is sound?
Like. I'm not a kid that's like asking why question.
That was supposed to be my main gimmick. I was like, oh, what can I bring to the table? And like, I'm just gonna be a kid asking the questions. Like,
No, that was my gimmick all
Oh.
along. I was like, it's an interesting guy. I can just ask why each question is gonna work out. So like that was the main thing. Like
so before all of that,
before all of that is like we present ourselves in like vacuum of each other.
vacuum of each other.
Yeah, in vacuum meaning like as if we didn't know each other.
Ah, okay.
But maybe we should present like our duo.
How did we meet?
How did we meet? Good question. How did we meet, Johan?
Yeah, so this is gonna be mostly you asking questions, I guess. We met at manga library / bar / video game arcade center in Paris, which is the city of culture. You know, the Cité des Lumières, philosophy and manga,
Humanists.
and Naruto and
Café.
Sartre. Yeah.
Naruto and Sartre, same
Yeah,
level.
this is
No
gonna be
problem.
yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of podcasts out there, but not a lot that brought Naruto and Sartre together.
That is so
And
true.
I think that's what we can bring to the table as French people, because French is like the second largest consumer of manga in raw numbers, and also
In raw numbers?
yeah, bigger than the US in raw numbers,
No way.
not per capita. Yeah,
But what's the raw number?
that's insane. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you think I fact check?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought
we
it was
should.
one of your gimmick actually.
We should like preface
Like-
this podcast by saying that we have no qualifications about anything whatsoever.
We have no qualification about anything except
Having no qualifications.
it's gonna be cringe as fuck to cut
Yeah.
and trim.
Yeah, and I think we should have one or several episodes about the appreciations of cringe.
Is that you're gonna appreciate a lot in this podcast?
Yeah, I mean that comes naturally to me when I think about this podcast for some reason.
Appreciation- So to talk about appreciation of cringe,
You first need to define cringe.
I've what?
We have a guest.
Did you watch Queer Eye on Netflix?
No.
Okay,
What
this is
is
amazing
it?
new show. Like there's already 2 seasons. It's like just it's not amazing.
Oh,
like,
isn't that like
like
the
five-
stuff about
five gay guys.
dressing up people?
5 gay guys, like
Uh-huh.
design, like whatever, revamping the life of like one person, and like
How
that
is-
was the cringiest moment of my life. Like I just like
Oh.
left the room, howled to the moon for like 5 minutes, not to like listen to this shit.
It
was like-
interesting.
It was like
I do
already
like cringe.
cringy. It's like this guy, small guy, never talked to anyone in his life, homeschooled,
Oh, cute.
never talked to anyone except his mother. Okay, and like this coach,
Just like in Game of Thrones.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like this coach is like, okay, let's go paintballing, and like you're gonna talk to like this guy. So like this guy that never spoke to anyone like came here and was like, hey you have beautiful hair. Like it's 17 years old person. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? He's not gay. He's not
Yeah.
anything. And I was like, no, that can't happen. And it
It's-
lasts like for 5 fucking minutes of like just super, because like the guy was like, what the fuck?
It's
And like
kinda
he continued,
cute.
oh, you have like nice, like, I don't know, jeans. And like it continues like that. 5
If
minutes.
you
I'm
don't know
like,
social conventions, and like even if you do know social conventions, when you come to talk to a stranger, like what the fuck are you gonna say?
I don't know. Are you
You don't
paintballing?
talk-
Do you want to paintball with me? Like, is this your first time?
You have a
Like-
beautiful paintball gun.
You have a beautiful paintball girl.
I love the color of your
Can we
bullets.
kiss? Something, but not like you have beautiful hair.
Yeah, so I think I want to ask you, like, is there good cringe and bad cringe? But I think it's
I hate cringe.
It's its own episode.
Okay, we can do like a small parenthesis. I hate cringe. I can't stand cringe. Like if it's cringy, I just stop watching, listening, or whatever. I just can't stand it. I'm
But
like,
life is cringe, so how do you live?
I have my.
Do you have like
headphones.
no self-reflection? Do you
I
never
have-
think about yourself ever?
I cringe. I'm good at inhibiting all moment of my life that I cringe about. Like I
So if I make you think about like 10-year-old you will die.
if you no, because I was a cool kid.
Oh, that's really
Like I can't remember, like because I remember like being this kid that didn't play football, that didn't like that just like even at 10 years old I was playing Diablo 2, and I had this one friend like I had like this little group of friends like they were playing football and I was like I'm not doing that, and I was like yeah, I mean, we're just talking about Diablo 2 in the
okay. So I guess it works well for our personal introductions as part of the first
Yeah.
episode. Like Vlad has always been perfect, and I come from very far away. Was born in the countryside up until like 2 years ago. I thought Naruto was the coolest thing in the world.
7 years ago.
Yeah, or 7. I don't know.
Yeah.
One thing about me, I don't understand time. I
That's a
think
good
time is a
thing.
social construct, just like gender and capitalism.
Do we want to go there now?
Not now. I'm giving us alleyway so that we don't get blocked.
We'll have an episode about LGBTQIAA2S.
I don't know. Do we want to get political?
I want
I
to
don't-
get into that fucking acronym.
Maybe you should
Not
have
the
an episode
judgment.
about
The
acronyms.
fucking is not about judgment. It's about only the acronyms.
How telling that you would use fucking for an acronym about sexuality.
Yeah. It's
More on that later. So this is the teasing episode where we like brace over like what,
I think
what
like,
kind of topic we can go into.
I think is like this episode put two things forward for this podcast. It's like listing all the fucking content that we're gonna do for the next 10 episodes. I think we have 10 topics. Huh?
In next 10 years, yeah.
And second thing, to actually make the first episode. Which I think is like a good main point of like doing something.
So one question I want to talk to you about in the vis-a-vis what we do. Is it fair to say that we're going to try to bring an analytic, like a self-reflective perspective and a cognitive science perspective on everything we talk about? Because
Ooh,
I know
but I
every
think we do
time,
that, yeah.
yeah, every time I talk about something, I try to question it.
I think we do that quite naturally without thinking about it. Like, so...
So maybe that could be one of the things you might want to listen to the podcast for.
Yeah,
To hear people
that
think
could
about
be the
things.
main theme. I think we're not gonna define the main theme ourselves. We're gonna let the listeners decide. I'm not sure it's gonna be a weekly, maybe like bi-weekly,
Bi-weekly
like
sounds
fortnightly.
good. What is fortnight?
A fortnight is 14 days because bi-weekly in
Ah.
English you never know if it's like 15 days or if it's twice a
Well,
week.
that's the same in every language, probably.
Yeah, but like the UK people, the British person invented the word fortnight. And a fortnight is
Well, no,
14
it's
days.
copyrighted. You don't want to say that, else you'll be sued by PUBG.
Yeah, we're gonna also have a corner about shitty video games.
A corner?
Not a
An
corner.
episode, maybe.
I mean, like there's shitty video
Come
games
back regularly.
every 6
Yeah,
months.
okay.
So maybe we should do like every 6 months review of the last bullshit game.
Maybe we can just focus on cringe and go cringy video games, cringy movie, cringy whatever.
Cringy. I'm not sure about cringy video game. Would you say what would be a cringy video game?
I think Fortnite is cringy.
Why? You feel cringe while playing Fortnite? Did you play Fortnite?
I didn't
No,
play
did you
Fortnite.
play not even one party?
No,
Not even one game?
no. I watched Fortnite and I felt
No,
cringe.
no, that isn't the same thing, Johan. Because like Fortnite, when you watch Fortnite, it's like I don't like watching Fortnite, but it's still better than like playing the actual game. Like playing Fortnite is the most boring thing ever. Like I've played PUBG, I played Fortnite, I played Realm Royale, which is like a
Clone of
copy
Fortnite.
of Fortnite. It's a copy of PUBG. Just to see if like just like the kind of game that it is boring or not. Like because I thought like okay, so you get those items for like 20 minutes, then you meet one guy, and either you kill that guy or either you killed and it's finished. There must be something else to this game. Like maybe it's interesting.
Well,
like,
yeah,
finding the thing.
the psychology of Fortnite is. I don't think it's very hard to understand.
No, but like, have you played? No, but like, it's not hard to understand when you watch it played. But like when you actually
Yeah, but
play
you're not
it,
like the typical human. You can't say that every gimmick of human psyche works with you.
Oh, I don't know. Apparently not. Because, like the main game of. Like,
I think
the
I
century.
go so far as to say that not one gimmick works on everyone, except maybe breathing.
No. Like what are you talking about? No, like a lot of gaming works on everyone. Like for
Every
example,
everyone?
I bought a coffee machine 1 hour ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Why that way? Because on Amazon there was a fucking timer saying like in 7 minutes we won't be able to like, or like to send it for tomorrow. So like either I bought it in the 7 minutes window or either I got it on Monday and I was like I don't have a choice. I'm buying
I'm
it.
not sure it works with on everyone with the same intensity, and maybe it doesn't work on some people at all.
I'm really
I
not
think
sure.
it's really depending on your conception of the world.
No, but like
And warrants
okay,
its own
I
episode.
think it depends on. Let's have like this thing for like 30 seconds. I think it depends on two things. Like, what do you call gimmicks? Like, is a gimmick like having your attention, or is your gimmick actually buying the thing? Because like if it's just like having your attention, like then like there's proof that like just if you like I don't know
Flash
put,
red.
yeah, just put like a flashing thing, like your brain have to go there. Like you don't have a choice, and like no brain has a choice. Like everyone do that.
So, as you can see, a wide diversity of content, from video games to philosophy and back to anime and back to philosophy. I think maybe one way to define ourselves is to say what we are not. Like we're not
Ooh.
daily.
That
we know.
that we know. It might be the only thing that we know about
Yeah.
this podcast. It won't be a daily podcast. So yeah, so this first podcast, like this first episode, was about defining what this podcast was about.
And then we switched about defining what this podcast was not about because it's easier.
Yeah, and what is not about then?
I think it's not about just like presenting our opinion and stuff. Like I don't want to be just like any other podcast, but that makes me just like any other podcast. So that's an interesting philosophical point.
like if we want to do a podcast where like we don't put our opinion in, we already put an opinion in what a podcast is. We didn't say we say like what was this podcast about, who we are, where we no we are.
Where we
already we still are.
Who we are,
We
where
still
we are.
Whew.
We are. That's
We
the,
are.
the name of
But
the
we
7th
didn't
episode.
say why do we want to do that podcast. We didn't say that. And I think that's quite an interesting topic because like I have a point of view.
What do you
So
want to make that podcast?
why do I want to make that podcast? Because I think our conversation in an everyday life, not every day, every fortnightly life, in our everyday life,
can help the world be a better place?
or worst,
Or worse.
but like another kind of
Can
place for
influence,
sure.
can change the world.
Can shape the world. No, but like I think like what we don't have in our daily discussion is like any kind of
listener.
listeners. No, but like any kind of review, because even if we are with other friends, like when we talk, like no one listens to our conversation, or like one, but like it's never like a group thing. And like I think like our conversation always brings something weird or like interesting to the table, and I think like bringing that to different person, different point of view, and like I want this podcast to be a conversation between you and I, but also between like you and I and the listeners. And obviously like first
So
podcast,
you
no
desperately
listeners.
want to find someone who understands you.
Yeah, mainly. Like I think, but like you also. Like
Yeah.
we fun together and we're like, okay, we understand each other in like some basic way and then not so basic.
Yeah.
But like now maybe we can find like our people.
Yeah, that reminds me of like the sentence from Hull I talked to you about like last week about like I saw the great minds of my generation.
Where the
yada,
fucking
yada,
yeah.
And I was like, where are they? And now we know they
Yeah.
are on our subreddit.
Exactly. That's the main fucking
Yeah.
point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Finding the great
The
minds
great
of our
minds of the
generation.
generation. That's good.
We're
not
them.
egocentric at all.
we're not but like in how like I saw the best mind of our generation means like I'm not part of them, so like it's completely exterior, like like yeah, well we don't want to like deep dive into how right now, but like the thing is like if we just want to meet people that wants to meet great minds of their generation. So you don't know Johan, but like it's all about being meta. Not being. What would you say? How would you
I
define
think
it?
it's not by design. I think when you're reflexive, you end up kind of meta. If you think about things, somehow you end up thinking about thinking. And if you're self-reflecting and you don't want to be set in your ways and you're questioning yourself, you necessarily end up meta.
Okay, so no,
And
so,
we can
so
do an episode about
that's why I was not
meta.
talking about being meta. I was talking about your fascination for meta, which is two different things. Because I think like I completely understand you about like what you just said, like about like why are we meta and like why any human being with a brain think about meta. But I don't understand like. Well, I kind of understand, but like our listener might not understand, like your fascination for meta.
That's linked. I mean, you said that like every self-reflection kind of leads to meta, to sum it up, and that's like kind of fascinating in its own way. Like I think it's a topic that bears exploring. Like why do you, I'm not gonna say always, but often end up at this point? Is it like a good thing, a bad thing? Is it like where creativity goes to die? Because talking about yourself is just like what you can say when you don't have anything to talk about? Or is it something more deep? Because if every self-reflection ends up in this kind of meta place, maybe there's something fundamental about the nature of thinking that has to do with meta. I don't know.
So we would be like hardwired to go to meta.
Not we. I think logic would be hardwired to go to meta.
So logic would be okay, that's the whole thing. But like, okay.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
So logic would be hardwired to be meta. So you do things that like human cognition is hardwired to be meta.
Well, regardless of how hardwired you are, I was saying that if you start thinking logically, even if it might not be natural, if you do the effort of doing that, of applying logic, you will end up in a meta place. And whether or not mankind is fundamentally hardwired for that is another question. But
that's a better question.
I don't know.
No, because like, okay. I think like, we could prove that. It's provable.
About logic and meta?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what Gödel did. Gödel is hard.
Okay. That's the conclusion of this podcast.
Title of my sex tape.
Gödel is fucking hard to understand.
Well, I don't know. It's.
I never read Gödel, so I have no fucking clue.
It's math.
Maybe. I haven't read it, so I have no fucking clue.
It's funny how you say read it like it's a book when it's just math demonstrations.
But you can read an explanation of Gödel with word.
Yeah, but an explanation with word of mathematical demonstration isn't worth shit though, because the whole thing is about formalizing. So I'd be more interested in asking you why logic is true. But
why logic is true?
And is there something that is not in logic? But like, let's talk about that.
Let's something that is not logic?
Like, why, if something is inconsistent logically,
it's not true.
Why is it bad? And
okay, that's a whole conversation.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's
that's
the
whole
first episode.
No, but that's in my list of topics that I showed you.
Okay, but like we're gonna talk about that in a comprehensive episode.
I don't think you can talk about any
in a series of episodes.
I don't think you can do philosophy in a comprehensive way ever by design. That is another episode too.
That is another episode because like I think it depends on the subject of the philosophy. If you have like a very very narrow subject, I think you could be comprehensive about it. No, the table is way too broad. Like what I was talking about. But like if you talk about a very narrow subject.
Very very narrow indeed.
Like narrower than a table.
Like maybe a small alleyway.
Maybe a small table.
I don't know. Can a table be narrow? You'll find out if you listen to the whole thing. It's like level like 30, 40 episode material. Like stick with us. This is just the beginning of the descent into the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole of is a narrow table a narrow philosophical subject?
Ooh, shots fired. I'm pretty sure that no. I think you can trivially say no.
Trivial? Okay, no, but like you can't choose trivial. I hate when people say trivially. Like,
well, obviously,
it's like you read that fucking book and like trivially blue, and you're like, no, but like, what do you mean trivially?
But
like,
trivially, a narrow table is just as philosophically interesting as a table. It's just a table. It just happens to be narrow. If anything, it's more.
It's less narrow than like a fucking.
Yeah. So obviously, what do you want to say? Obviously, instead of trivially.
So more you define your philosophical object, broader is it? It is. Could you say that?
The more you define it, the broader it is. No, I think it goes in a bell curve.
Oh, maybe.
So what is the maximum of...
So wait, we need to define bell curve. So bell curve is like, okay, without a picture it's quite hard. We would put the picture of a
take
bell
the shape
curve.
of a bell and imagine a curve.
It doesn't look like a bell like at all.
It looks like a bell a little
It's
bit.
like
Well, that's where it gets his name.
Yeah, okay.
I don't make the rules, Vlad.
Okay, like look for bell curve online. It's just to say that like 70% of people are the same. And like then 30% are a bit different, and then 10% are a bit more different, and then
The whole
5%.
point for here is
Well,
it rises and then it decreases.
Yeah, okay. No, but like I think we will use a bell curve like
A
quite a
lot.
bit
Okay.
in this podcast. So I think you need to actually.
I think
read the article.
we'll need to call it the normal distribution.
The normal
It's the
distribution.
politically correct term.
Why? Because like bell
Because
will like.
normal.
It's like less politically correct to say normal curve than like bell curve.
Of course, that's why I said that. It was irony.
Okay.
Yeah, my thing is also irony. So irony,
But
self-reflection, and asking questions like a 5-year-old.
Maybe you don't know that because maybe like all the bell of the world could say like, but like we're not normal. How dare you use our name?
So
to do
yes, one
that.
of
Maybe I don't know.
one of the subjects
Sorry.
I like to talk about is do the sizes of all the bells in the world follow a bell curve distribution?
Obviously,
Yeah.
like by definition.
That's not how it was defined. And I'm pretty no. It's a power law. There's like a very few number of very big bells and a very large number of little bells.
I'm really not sure about that.
But obviously, do you think
What
that there
do
is
you-
a
what are
maximum of bells?
Like no, but like clear. Stop.
Do you think there's more medium bells than little
Yeah,
bells and big bells?
Obviously.
I think
obviously.
there's way more little bells than big bells.
No.
I
Oh.
don't know.
Maybe a little. Nah. Yeah.
So, do the bells follow a bell
Okay,
curve
I
or
see.
a power law?
No,
That's
no, it depends on what bell we're talking about. If we're talking about bells that are in monuments, I think it completely follow bell curve. Like bell is starting to lose its meaning. But
Yeah,
like
the
if
small bells that you hold in your hand are bells too.
yeah, but like okay, but like if we define stop.
Mm-hmm.
If we take all the bell in the world, bell meaning just like a little object that makes sounds, clearly doesn't follow a normal law. If we define bell as monuments bell, like bells in monuments, with like small bell being like the smallest bell and like big bells being like the biggest bell, then it completely follow like a normal law. Completely. For sure.
Probably. I'd be on board with that statement.
Okay, so we agree. Yeah!
And so we see that most disagreements are essentially semantics.
Okay, I think we might wrap it up. No?
Yeah, so probably. Are we doing anything more? Should we...
Okay, so we talk about like let's sum up what we've done. And then
Okay.
so what we've done, we present ourselves.
Yeah.
We did that for sure. We're sure about that. We
Well, I went by fast though. I don't know if I get it really.
me neither, but like we're gonna like listen to it and then see if we need to present ourselves in the other episode.
One full episode about you, man.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We present like what could be next episodes. Like kind
A
of
lot of open alleyways to explore.
a lot of open alleyways. We present our bell.
The bells. You learned a lot about bells.
You learn a lot about bell distribution and
And
like
no, we
the-
can't cut that, thanks.
We're not. No. Yeah, obviously.
Obviously, we're not gonna cut the bells. man.
This is the best part. I actually think that like it's the only place where like would make sense. It's about bell distribution.
I thought this podcast like explored the large breadth of what we might do.
Yeah,
And I think that's nice to be representative for the first episode.
I think so as well. So we're gonna wrap it up.
We
We
should end by thanking our sponsor.
what our sponsor?
I don't know. Tonight, the episode is sponsored by podcasting. So if you have ideas or a big ego, either, you can do a podcast to communicate them. That's sometimes works, most of the time doesn't, I guess. But just like anything in life, really. So what are you complaining about? Well, yeah. Do you have
To
experience
begin-
with podcasts?
Yeah, to begin your podcast, you can use our promo code, not daily podcast, to doapodcast.com.
No, don't give fake URLs. You need to give like fake products, but not fake URLs.
I'm not sure it's fake. I'm pretty sure doapodcast.com exists.
Yeah, but that's not our sponsor. Our sponsor is podcast, not doapodcast.com.
Ooh, so go to podcast and
do a
use the
podcast and use the promo code
code
not daily podcast.
So if like basically if you do a podcast after this podcast, you need to plug us in.
Yeah, and if you did it before and still put us in, I really want your phone number.
Yeah,
I'm
let's.
very impressed.
I have I have some question to ask about the past. Okay, let's cut that shit out.
It's gonna be horrible.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.
And
Not tomorrow. See you not tomorrow.
See you not tomorrow, and put all of your comments on the subreddit Not Daily Podcast.
And we may address them in the future if a future there is.
We will address them in the next podcast if there is a next podcast and if there is a
Well,
listen of
if
the
there,
first
I
one.
think if there is a future, there will be a next podcast. But
If there's a future,
if
there
time
will-
doesn't exist, there can't be a next podcast.
That is.
Well, It depends what you call next.
Yeah. No, but like what we can say, if there's another podcast,
Definitely say for sure.
for sure, is like if you're a listener that posts something on this subreddit, we will talk about it in the next podcast.
Okay, that's not what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is we can say for sure if there's a next podcast, it's not tomorrow.
Also,
That is the main thing we're sure about.
that's completely a true fact because apparently you need to put true before fact because fact are not fact anymore.
And that's the topic for next time.
Is it though? Everyone is talking about that.
Okay, that's not a topic for
Yeah.
next time. But
Okay.
truth is an interesting topic though.
That is true. We won't talk about fact. We will talk about truthness.
Never talk about facts. Rule number 1 of the 21st century, man.
Facts are not real.
Facts are deprecated.
Facts are different. Okay, bye.